Hi there, it's Kareem from Keeper's Nursery. Today is the 12th of March 2024 and I'm making a video about my seedling apple trees. So this is part of my breeding project. At this stage of the year, as you can see behind me, the seedlings are about 10 centimeters, let's say 4 inches high. I've recently just finished potting them on. So before, if you'd watched one of my videos, which I would have done in early February, after stratifying the seeds, which means you collect the seeds, you harvest the seeds when you harvest the fruit. So in October 2023, November 2023, and December 2023, I picked the apples that I liked, and in each apple there are maybe, let's say, five, six, something like that, maybe up to 10 if you're lucky, but usually five because apples are split into fives. Um, Seeds in those apples, and most of those are probably going to be in good condition, and they will germinate to produce seedlings. But before you do that, you need to actually sort of stratify them. So in the cold, so they have to go through a wintering process. So you put them in the fridge with the damp towel, like kitchen roll, for about a month, maybe 2 months, and then you can germinate them. So I started germinating them in early February to get them going early. Put about let's say 4 or 5 into these sort of half-liter pots here. So that's about a pint. And recently, which took, so I've got about 600 seeds now, seedlings, maybe a bit more. I haven't counted them recently. Um, Recently put them into individual 3 litre pots, so that was a lot of work. That actually took me about 3 or 4 days to do. Some of them I should have done a bit early. Ideally you want to do them when they are quite small, so if the seedlings are nice and small, that means that you're not going to disturb the roots too much when you do it. This one over here is a lot taller. It's recovered quite well because this was one I did about two weeks ago. Some of these that I've only recently done are a bit more crooked because they've not been too happy about being potted on, but hey ho, that's life. So anyway, here's about 600 or so seedlings. So why have I done this? The reason I've done this is so that I can grow the seedlings on as quickly as I can. There is a juvenile phase in apple trees. So in most trees, actually, there's a juvenile phase. That means when you have a very young tree, all it's really interested is firstly get the roots going as far down as they can so that they anchor themselves well. They can get hold of water, nutrients. Then the top needs to grow, and obviously the top produces the food, so the top needs light, so the top's going to grow as big as it can, so that the tree can actually sustain itself. Maturity, where it's going to start reproducing, that comes much later, because there's no point actually producing fruit if you are a weak small tree, and especially an apple, which takes, well, almost half a year's effort, and is already quite a considerably weighty fruit to have as well. So apple trees tend to, if you just leave them to it, take about, let's say, 10 years. I've not actually had an apple seedling that I've allowed to fruit as a seedling, because what I do is I graft them onto M9 after hopefully the first year. That then reduces the juvenile phase to, let's say, about 5 years, maybe 3 years. Some of them a bit more, maybe 7 years, but you 50% of them should fruit at about 4 or 5 years. So I'm growing them in these 3 litre pots, individual pots. It was a lot of effort. Yes, there was some cost to it as well, but that should hopefully save me a year, because at the end of the towards the end of the summer, when I'm coming to my chip budding season, these seedlings will hopefully be about 50 centimeters tall. That wood will be thick enough, so it should hopefully be about the thickness of a like pencil, ideally like a Sharpie, but I don't think I'll get to that stage in the first year. I mean, I will fertilize these, and it is quite warm in this I don't know what to call it, like south facing, um, like glass house almost, but it's not. The ceiling is a clearish It's quite a grubby looking clearish plastic, corrugated plastic, but it does get warm in here, so it'll be about 40 degrees Celsius in here. I can open the sides for ventilation, but I want these as big as they can get by August so that I can chip bud them onto M9 rootstocks. That way you sort of create a Frankenstein-like tree, which will be the M9 rootstocks. Basically, they are quite a dwarf rootstock, but one of the upsides of a dwarf tree is that it tends to fruit quite early and fruits quite well. So if you sort of cut that juvenile phase, you're shaving years off your the time you have to wait to see what the fruit is like. Shaving the time off just means there's less maintenance. I already have quite a lot of trees to look after. This is just a sort of, it's not even a side hustle, it's just something for fun. I also have children in the house that I have to look after. And, you know, my main business is obviously producing fruit trees, which keeps me extremely busy throughout the year. So this is just an extra bit of fun. But if I can save a couple years doing this, it's quite fun. And that also means that you can do the next generation of crosses. So this seedling, this little apple seedling here, right here, this is already a seedling of one of my seedlings. So this is the seedling of seedling 82. And back there we've got the parent. So that's Riker. This will be seedling 82's seedling. You know, we'll see. It's interesting what may come from all this. I'm just going to show you now what the rootstocks look like as well at this stage. So in here we also have rootstocks. These rootstocks here just came in, I'd say about 2 weeks ago now. So I've tidied them up and bundled them. I'm actually planting them this week. And yeah, these ones right here are the M9. So I'm setting aside about 600 of these rootstocks. They're all in bundles of 50. So 12 of those bundles will be just for my, not for sale, but will be for hopefully most of these growing on. So I'm going to hopefully have quite sort of big, you know, biggish looking seedlings at the end of the summer. And looking at the seedlings right now, if you are familiar with apple trees, you'll notice the leaves on these look ever so slightly different. They're a bit more sort of serrated at the edges. This is because this is what a seedling sort of juvenile apple tree looks like. By the time these are fruiting, they do revert to looking like apple trees that we're sort of used to seeing. So the leaves look normal, as it were. In a few years, there's a sort of transformation. Most of these all look the same. There's the odd one over there, which is sort of reddish looking. That will probably be because the pollen parent was a red-fleshed sort of variety, which is Malus nideswetchiana related, which they tend to have red leaves, red wood, red bark, red flowers as well. So the whole thing is red, and then the fruit's red. Those can be quite interesting. They tend to be quite acidic apples, which, you know, hopefully they're going to be nice. They're quite pretty to look at, but I'm you know, my main target is to produce similar things to what I have produced so far, which will be things like Riker seedlings, which I've found to be extremely nice apples, which I'm aiming to produce nice garden varieties for the British public to be able to buy, and these will be available at some stage. And well, these, when they fruit, will be, so that right now it's 2024. In the summer, when I chip bud them in August 2024, so they'll be in 2025 season, they'll be called 1-year-old trees. None of those will fruit. 2026, there'll be 2-year-old trees. None of those will fruit. In 2027, when they're 3-year-old trees, I expect a few will flower and possibly fruit. In 2028, when they're 4-year-old trees, I'd expect sort of 20% maybe to fruit. And in 2029, when they're 5-year-old trees, I expect maybe up to 50% of them to fruit. So that's sort of my job in the late 20s. So when the kids are a bit older, in the late 20s and the early 30s, I'm going to be very busy reviewing all of these, going down into the nursery, checking out sort of every week in the sort of between August and December, just checking in on these, trying to keep notes. I've also got about 600 other seedlings down there which are a year ahead of these. I've also got my my initial seedling crosses, which I grafted in 2017. So the majority of those are already fruiting, and then this year I'm going to do a few hand pollinations and do them as well. It's all going to be, I'm going to be busy doing all this, but hopefully there will, I mean, I expect there will be quite a few good things out here, especially the Riker seedlings. I've had such tremendous luck with those. Those have been openly pollinated, but extremely high sort of, I'd say, so sort of 1 in 6 of those has been a very good apple, and then I've had 3 from there, maybe 4 I would say, that are exceptional apples, which outperform most other apples, most other sort of well-known varieties that are available at their times of the season. So it's no joke. This stuff is actually possible. You can just you can produce extremely nice apples, raise them from seed. You don't have to sort of go through thousands. I'm just going to show you what's going on outside, because that's where the rootstocks are. So we'll say bye to this room with all the rootstocks and the seedlings. So far there aren't any mice. This is why I constructed these little tables. These were the initial ones. I did these about, I think, almost 2 weeks ago now. They are weirdly, they're slightly smaller because they weren't in the sort of warm, light room that I'd created where the conditions were great. The roots have all been disturbed in these, but they're all looking nice and straight. The other ones, which I've done more recently, they're all bigger, but they're all looking a bit haggard because their roots had poked up out of the bottom of these sort of half-litre pots into the capillary matting, which meant that I think they're slightly more disturbed by the fact that I've moved them. I should have done them a few weeks ago, but it is a big job to do. Here are some that I haven't found room for yet, but I'm going to start planting more rootstocks tomorrow when the weather's better, so I will be able to do that and move everything around into what should eventually be their final places for the year, where I'll just look after them. So this is outside right now. Some cherry plum blossom over there. There's also down here, there's some almond and nectarine blossom over here. You can see the apricots are in blossom. There's some more peach blossom around here. So these are the rootstocks, and we plant rootstocks by hand. It's the only job that requires two people actually in the whole annual sort of cycle of producing fruit trees. The way I do it anyway. These are all planted 35 centimeters apart, and the rows are about 2.4 meters apart. As you can see, it's very wet. We had another 14 millimeters of rain today. But the good thing about planting by hand, I'll probably get 1500 in a day done. It is hard work, but I can do 1500 a day, which is all right. So it's about a week's work to do all my rootstocks. But we'll be able to plant tomorrow, even though there is standing water on the ground. And you can see we don't make too much of a mess. If you were doing this mechanically, you wouldn't be able to go on this land for at least a week, maybe 2 weeks from here, because your tractors would sink in. Some of these, you can see these tractor tires here. This was when the ground was much firmer, and that was with we had grass tires on my Kubota, so that means it wasn't making too much of a mess. And down there where that pylon is, not really a pylon, telegraph pole, my apologies, that's where the row will be for the seedlings. I'm going to put 2 rows in there, so 300 in each row, 600 seedlings or so. And yeah, that will be that. That's where the M9 seedlings will be. So in a few years' time, you'll probably see me down there reviewing my seedlings. Yeah, it's a good thing to do. It feels nice to be outside again in the spring air and thinking about all these things. Hopefully you've got some seedlings growing at home as well, or if you've got like a small business and you're doing this, it is good fun. Let me know if you've had any sort of successes, because it's nice to hear from the sort of relatively small but fun community. I know most of you are in America, which is a shame, because can't really sort of see what you're doing firsthand. It's really important to sort of actually taste apples. Reviewing apples is one thing. It's quite tricky to do on the YouTube channel, because honestly you don't know what I'm trying to sort of say an apple tastes like. I come up with ideas about how to sort of make it more interesting than saying that, oh, this is a very good apple. But tasting things firsthand is important, and also people have such different contrasting sort of opinions and sort of the things you pick up when you taste an apple. I mean, for one thing, like, there are so many different varieties of apples out there. I'll read people's reviews, and I sort of do disagree, as any expert will do, will disagree with what they like, but agree with some other people. And it's interesting, maybe it's the way that the apple was grown there, or maybe it's just how it's doing in the terroir, or if it's just, yeah, we just have different opinions. But it would be really cool, what I'm saying is, if there were more apple growers in England like this breeding, because then you get to try apples. I'm going to East Malling Research Station next week, where someone nice called Amanda is going to show me around their breeding project. I think they're mostly breeding rootstocks, but it is dead interesting. I'm going to find out what they say about the whole sort of the way they do it. I know they've got polytunnels. I think you can sort of really reduce the juvenile stage down if you grow them in polytunnels. She's also said if you graft them onto other sort of more mature trees rather than an M9 rootstock, if you graft your seedling onto a mature tree, then you will get a sort of reduced juvenile stage, so you'll get to see the fruit in a few years sooner. But I'm skeptical because M9 is a sort of, if everything's on M9 in the same conditions, it's a level playing field. So if I am considering, if I'm reviewing apples and I've got 600 of them, and I'm considering it every sort of, I'm going back every week, and then, year one, I've reviewed this apple 3-4 times over the year, and then in year two, I review the same apple. If they're all on M9, that's the control, that's great. And if it was a good year, if a bad year, that's the same, that's fine. If suddenly you're grafting them onto a different tree, M9 produces good apples. If you grow the same variety on a different rootstock, you actually get slightly different quality in apples. M9's up there. Some of the Geneva rootstocks produce better fruit. If you go for a more vigorous tree, you can get slightly worse quality fruit. This is why certain growers will do this when they're producing apples to sell to supermarkets. It's all about the sort of the size, the coloration, the quality, how sort of sweet the apples are. These little things vary a lot. So you kind of want a level playing field. So as much as it might sort of save me a year or two if I did graft these onto, some of my cordon varieties, some of my cordon trees down here, I would also be sort of ruining the control, which means that I might think something's amazing, or I might miss something that's amazing, and be incorrect both times, and that would just be, what's the point? So anyway, 5 years, I'm going to live another 5 years easily. I'm only 35, so I can do that. It'll be fine. And anyway, I don't think you can change the juvenile stage too much. I think it is a few years. It is one of the sort of the problems or the issues with apple breeding, is that it does take time. It's not the cost, it's the cost is time. It's if you had an annual crop, if you had, I guess, strawberries or something, every year they're going to flower and fruit, so it's only going to take you 1 year. Some things even have ephemeral things have multiple flowering periods in the same year, so you can really rapidly, things go to seed, you can grow them again, they'll flower again. I'm not saying strawberries, I haven't got any first-hand experience in that, but that would be really cool. But yeah, one of the nice things about apples is it does take a few years to do it. And at this stage where some of my seedlings I am saying they will be on sale this year at some stage. They're not going to be on sale in May at Keeper's Nursery on our website, but I'll probably put them on sale maybe later in the year. I'll make some sort of big hoo-ha about it, but there won't be that many of them, let's say 10 of each, but that's pretty cool. And that has taken the best part of a decade to reach that stage, that I'm pretty happy with these apples. They are very good apples. They might not be perfect if you grow them in the West Country or in the North, but you can have a great. So anyway, thank you very, very much for watching. I will make another few apple videos before the actual apple season. I'm going to do one about training trees. If you have any ideas, or if you have any sort of comments, feedbacks, please share them, and I will try and respond. Apologies, I'm not editing videos at all. I haven't got time. I'm a very busy guy, and I've got a young family, so I'm not going to sit in front of the computer and edit videos. But I'm sure that you guys would appreciate if I did, and I do appreciate other people who do it. They're lovely videos, but Yeah, you get what you get with me. Thanks for watching. Take care. Hope everyone has a lovely March and it's going to be a good fruitful year ahead. Hopefully not too much rain during the blossom in April. Bye then.